I don't know if you're familiar with Donald Hoffman's work about reality. So his idea is that our perception is just an interface to reality.
So Donald Hoffman is the guy at UC Irvine.
Yeah.
Yes, I've met Donald and I've seen his video. And look, Donald has not invented anything new. This goes back to ancient philosophy.
Let me just state in case people aren't,
yes, of course.
In case people aren't familiar. I mean, it's a fascinating thought experiment to me, like of out of the box thinking, perhaps literally, is that there's a gap between the world as we perceive it and the world as it actually exists, and I think that's, for the philosophy of objectivism, is a really important gap to close. So can you maybe at least try to entertain the idea that there's more to reality than our minds can perceive?
Well, I don't understand what more means, right? Of course, there's more to reality than what our senses perceive. That is, for example, I don't know, certain elements have radiation, right? Uranium has radiation. I can't perceive radiation. The beauty of human reason is I can through experimentation discover the phenomena of radiation, then actually measure radiation, and I don't worry about it. I can't perceive the world the way a bat perceives the world, and I might not be able to see certain things but I can. We've created radar, so we understand how a bat perceives the world, and I can mimic it through a radar screen and create images like the bat, its consciousness somehow perceives it, right?
Yeah.
So the beauty of human reason is our capacity to understand the world beyond what our senses give us directly. At the end, everything comes in through our senses, but we can understand things that our senses don't provide us. But what he's doing is he's doing something very different. He is saying what our senses provides us might have nothing to do with the reality out there. That is just a random, arbitrary, nonsensical statement. And he actually has a whole evolutionary explanation for it. He runs some simulations. The simulations seem, I mean, I'm not an expert in this field, but they seem silly to me. They don't seem to reflect. And look, all he's doing is taking Immanuel Kant's philosophy, which articulates exactly the same cause, and he's giving it a veneer of evolutionary ideas. I'm not an expert on evolution, and I'm not an expert on epistemology, which is what this is. So to me, as a semi-layman, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm actually, I have this Yaron Brook show. I don't know if I'm allowed to pitch it, but I've got this Yaron Brook show
so first of all, let me pause.
On YouTube.
I'm a huge fan of the Yaron Brook show. I listen to it very often. As a small aside, the cool thing about reason, which you practice, is you have a systematic way of thinking through basically anything.
Yes.
And that's so fun to listen to. I mean, it's rare that I think there's flaws in your logic, but even then it's fun because I'm like disagreeing with the screen when I'm
and it's great when somebody disagrees with me and they give good arguments because that makes it challenging.
Anyway, sorry.
So one of the shows I want to do in the next few weeks is bring one of my philosopher friends to discuss the video that Hoffman, where he presents his theory, because it surprises me how seductive it is. And it seems to be so, first of all, completely counterintuitive, but because, somehow we managed to cross the road and not get hit by the car. And if our senses did not provide us any information about what's actually going on in reality, how do we do that? And not to mention build computers, not to mention fly to the moon and actually land on the moon. And if reality is not giving us information about the moon, if our senses are not giving us information about the moon, how did we get there? And where did we go? Maybe we didn't go anyway. It's nonsensical to me, and it's a very bad place philosophically, because it basically says there is no objective standard for anything. Mm-hmm. There is no objective reality. You can come up with anything. You could argue anything, and there's no methodology, right? I believe that at the end of the day, what reason allows us to do is provides us with a methodology for truth. And at the end of the day, for every claim that I make, I should be able to boil it down to see.
Yeah.
Look, the evidence of the senses is right there. And once you take that away, knowledge is gone and truth is gone. And that opens it up to, complete disaster.
So, to me, why it's compelling to at least entertain this idea. First of all, it shakes up the mind a little bit to force you
Mm-hmm.
to go back to first principles and ask the question, what do I really know? And the second part of that I really enjoy is it's a reminder that we know very little, to be a little bit more humble. So if reality doesn't exist at all, before you start thinking about it, I think it's a really nice wake-up call to think, wait a minute, I don't really know much about this universe. That humbleness. I think something I'd like to ask you about in terms of reason, when you can become very confident in your ability to understand the world if you practice reason often. And I feel like it can lead you astray because you can start to think so I love psychology, and psychologists have this certainty about understanding the human condition, which is undeserved. You run a study with 50 people and you think you could understand the source of all these psychiatric disorders, all these kinds of things. That's similar kind of trouble I feel like you can get into with when you overreach with reason.
So I don't think there is such a thing as overreaching with reason, but there are bad applications of reason. They're bad uses of reason or the pretense of using reason. I think a lot of these psychological studies are pretense of using reason, and these psychologists have never really taken a serious stat class or a serious econometrics class, so they use statistics in weird ways that just don't make any sense. And that's not reason, right? Yeah. That's just bad thinking, right? So I don't think you can do too much good thinking. And that's what reason is. It's good thinking. And now, the fact that you try to use reason does not guarantee you won't make mistakes. It doesn't guarantee you won't be wrong. It doesn't guarantee you won't go down a rabbit hole and completely get it wrong. But it does give you the only existing mechanism to fix it,
right?
Which is going back to reality, going back to facts, going back to reason, and getting out of the rabbit hole and getting up back to reality. So I agree with you that it's interesting to think about these, what I consider crazy ideas, because what is my argument about them? If I don't really have a good argument about them, then do I know what I know? So in that sense, it's always nice to be challenged and pushed and oriented. The nice thing about objectivism is everybody's doing that to me all the time, right? Because nobody agrees with me on anything. So I'm constantly being challenged, whether it's by Hoffman on metaphysics and epistemology, right? On the very foundations of my knowledge. In ethics, everybody constantly. And in politics all the time. So I find that it's part of, I prefer that everybody, there's a sense in which I prefer that everybody agreed with me, right? Because I think we'd live in a better world. But there's a sense in which that disagreement makes it, at least up to a point, makes it interesting and challenging and forces you to be able to rethink or to confirm your own thinking and to challenge that thinking.